Once again, this is Bruce Dickey from the Arkansas Baseball Academy, and what we're doing now is talking about the second progression of hitting instruction. First of all, we talked about our hitting three phases, the start, the load, the step and swing. Then we went to the hitting tees, and once they're really getting it, and you can see as a parent or as a coach that they've got all phases of this down. Now what we do, instead of having a stationary ball sitting on a tee, now we introduce a little bit of movement. This involves a couple of things. They have to learn the strike zone, all right? So if I was standing right here, the strike zone comes right across the top of the chest and it goes down to the knees, so it's a little bit of a rectangle right there, and it covers the distance of the plate. So the plate was down there, it would come out, it would come up, and it would come there. And they have to begin to learn to swing at strikes. Now, I'm going to walk to the plate and I'm going to show something before I start showing the short underhand toss, which is the next phase in hitting. One of the things that we do is we have put down some tape here as a general idea on feet being shoulder length apart, the stepping at the angle. These two red pieces are, if you have two strikes, we widen the strike zone a little bit. You have to be able to make contact. When they start out on here, one of the things with the hands that I have them do, we said, remember the hands have to be in the top of the strike zone. 6 inches out, 6 inches back. The elbow never crosses the midpoint of the body. The cap is always in front of the knob. When they get on here and they start to load to come in, they get ready like this, and I hold the ball up, and they have to say to me, below my hands. So they're standing here like this and they're ready. They're watching me sitting over on the chair. I bring the ball up like that, and they say, below my hands. They load as I come back, they step, don't move any part of their upper body, and they swing and make contact. And here's the tough part. In the strike zone, below their hands. So we've introduced a couple of things. Using mental practice by saying reinforcing that over and over again below my hands, and then we constantly work on their hitting mechanics. One of the reasons I don't do short toss, you go to these games and you see they put out these little metal things that spring out, and the coach gets in front and tosses the ball and they hit, and they go really fast one after another. That is such a waste of time. It's not game specific. The person that's doing that doesn't understand hitting mechanics, and they don't know how to toss the ball properly. So what they do is they get really, really good at doing it wrong, and that's not what we want to do. Remember that if I come in, if I'm a high school coach and I get two players of equal athletic ability, one's played for 7 years and the other one's played for a year, but they have equal ability, and I have to make cuts, I'm cutting the one that has the bad habits for 7 years and keeping the one that's played ball for 1 year. The reason for that is research says it takes me 11 times longer to get rid of the bad habits that this person has developed than it is just to teach this other guy right the first time. And that is why I keep telling parents, start them young, and the number one criteria for success is excellent instruction. I just pound that into their heads because it's absolutely true. So we have introduced a mental side of the game, below my hands, and we have introduced a ball coming at them that is moving, that they have to learn to hit. And what we're doing in this is reinforcing all the skills that we talked about in the beginning swing, going to the tees, and now coming to the short underhand toss. And as a coach, you sit there and you always work from the ground up. One thing that's at fault is people will say, oh, he dropped his hands, oh, his front shoulder's coming up, oh, his stride is too far. I went out and worked in the Olympic team training camps and found out by talking to sports psychologists that there's very few athletes in the world that can focus on two things at once. And since we have to have a firm foundation, we always start with the feet. Is the foot coming out at the right angle? Is it landing on the ball of the foot? If they stride too far, that's a problem. We don't want the foot coming up and doing all that stuff. If they have great timing and they are highly gifted, we can change some of that thing to add a little power, but not in the beginning. If they don't make contact, they're not going to have fun, they're not going to like the sport. So I follow the KISS principle, K-I-S-S. This is for coaches. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't overcoach. Make sure their feet are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Then look at the knees, then work up the body, then look at the arms, then look at the hands. And later on, I will talk about all the other things that you have to know as a coach or a parent that kids do wrong. So you're reinforcing all the correct behaviors here. Once again, you step in here, they're relaxed, I hold the ball up, they say, below my hands, as I start to swing the ball back, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. That's when they load, then they step, and if it's in the strike zone, they swing, and they want to stay, we want them to be balanced in here, if at all possible. And that is the second progression in hitting that we feel is valuable to get them on the road to pursue excellence. This underhand toss is probably not more than 10 yards, but based on how tall or how big the kid is, you use your own judgment from the pace. But what you're doing is this: you want to make darn sure you stay behind this net. And I always want any kid that's in a cage must have a helmet on, without exception. And you should have a helmet on as well. I don't, because I'm just giving the instruction here. What you can do is they're standing there, they're in their starting position to hit. Then I hold the ball up like this, they say, below my hands. When my hand comes back, they start into their load, and then what I do, is toss the ball in. So I sit in here and toss the ball in. Every once in a while, I will come here again. They say, below my hands. I come up here, and notice it's a flat trajectory. I'm not taking the ball and having it a big loop like that. As flat as I can get it coming in. You can stick your head over to the side like this. Once you release the ball, you better get behind here, because they'll come screaming back past you. All you got to do is get hit once in the shoulder, and you'll learn to get in a safe area. Make sure now, because this is where there's a decision-making process. They have to, is it in the strike zone or is it not? So when they say below your hands, you can come out below my hands, come back, throw it just above their hands. And they will begin to learn the strike zone. One last thing on this. If they make a mistake, a lot of times what we do with the bat is, I think it's important to invoke a higher power. In another segment, I'll be teaching about the mental side of the game. This isn't about being mentally tough or anything. It's about understanding how your brain works. And so all the skills that I talk about this entire camp, the physical is preceded by the mental. And if you try to disengage them like they're two different things, you will never tap the God-given potential of each. So here's the kind of thing that I suggest. You always want to keep reinforcing these kids as much as possible. Catch them in the act of doing something right, pat them on the back, especially in front of their friends, and then calmly talk to them about what they can do to improve. So let's just say, he said, below my hands, and he steps, and he swings it when it's up high. We want to make sure that their thinking process and attitude is great. So some kids will get mad and get upset, and they'll hit the bat down, they're gritting their teeth, they're upset. That's not what we train. We train to be in control of our emotions. And the more I can get them to develop habits of being in control of their emotions, the better athlete they're going to be, the much more better success. So what we do is this. They've swung at one low or inside or high. I want them to step back out, close their eyes, and to say something to this. Thank you, Lord, for showing me what I shouldn't swing at. Really appreciate it. Help me out. They step back in. Now that's positive. It takes, when you get negative, it takes 30 seconds for you to flush the negativity from your brain. We don't have that time in baseball. So if you've gotten very negative and then you step back in, you just brought all of that with you, and now your chances of success go down even further. So you have to be in the right frame of mind. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you have any questions, I will help you in any way that I can. Thank you for your time.